Do this in 720, but Odysee won't accept 720, so blame them and not me. Got 480 is as far as they'll go right now. Click the links for Odysee, Bit Chute. Join the channel, support the channel, become a member, support the via other links anonymously on crypto or Odysee. Or I think CashApp might be anonymous, or you just use coffee as kind of a nice way to drop a donation. But the good thing about Odysee is you can donate like a nickel, which is pretty easy to part somebody with. Anyway, so the cuck battles of 2021 look like they're going to continue into 2022 until the great cuckening war. And I don't know what that will look like, but I'm sure there'll probably be a lot of lube, humiliation, tears, and maybe cocaine involved. And probably Viagra, now that I think about it. I don't know if that's a good... not safe for work. This is going to get into the sinister degeneracy of Jack Murphy, a.k.a. Goldman. So, what's the deal with butthole licking and foot jobs? Yeah, graphic content warning, because I'm talking about this filthy parasite. So, my first video of the New Year's is going to be on buttholes and feet. I do want to go into a deeper talk about the left-hand path, the sinister path, versus the right-hand path. But before that, some of the preliminary things with the kinky sex of Goldman. He's a guy who ran a men's course, I guess, who was trying to convince men to tell their girlfriends to sleep with other men instead of saying, get her pregnant and have many children and then raise them correctly. That's what the men's course should be. Here, I just taught you the men's course. That's it. That's the secret of the men's course. He decided to teach a little bit of a different lesson. Always with the subversion with these Murphy types, am I right? So with the kinky, degenerate sex of Goldman, very few people are going to be able to wrap their heads around something like butthole licking. It's just hard to say it without laughing because it's so fucking stupid. And it's not really sex so much as what some broken person thinks is sex. I guarantee... Well, I don't guarantee. I'm going to assume he's had some traumatic childhood issues that he has not yet worked through. But that's just an opinion, not a defamatory statement of fact. So as if someone taking advice from porn videos, that's the kind of mentality these type of people have. It's like they're stuck at a very young teenage age, and they were exposed to sexuality way too early, and it kind of warped their brain. A lot of us have experienced that. Honestly, there should be a great redress of grievance for the industry that controls that. I'm not saying heads on stakes or anything. Well, I guess I am. I mean, after legal due process. If that was legal, that would be a good deterrent if you took all those people who push that kind of degeneracy. Anyway, the thing is, all this kind of stuff is for, that kind of weird buttholes, foot, whatever stuff they're doing. It's for mentally ill people or just confused people who have left the path and need some gentle guidance getting back on the right path again. And I don't think Goldman, I mean, he's beyond, someone like Goldman's beyond help, obviously. But the society, about saving the guys who were paying for his course, they're able to be saved. The thing is, the society is pretty much far away from corrective behavior. It's all accelerationism all the time, positive reinforcement, because everything is istophobic. If you criticize trans drag kids whose parents mutilate their children, permanently sterilizing them, well, that's just their life choice, and you must respect it, or you're a Hugo Boss wearing Austrian corporal landscape painter who just loved animals and was a vegetarian. It's to the point of absurdity. America in current year is a South Park parody, probably from the 90s, where Cartman goes to the death camp of tolerance, if you remember that, if you've seen, I don't know, the first 20 years of South Park. I don't think South Park would ever imagine that parents would turn their kids into catamites for perverts. That just was not on Trey Parker and Matt Stone's radar a few years ago. If kids came up with some stupid idea, you would have just told them they heard it from a filthy, degenerate commie, and when they're older, they'll understand why it's so stupid. But now the schools are run by literal cat lady Bolsheviks with Soros and Schwab funding them. It's not, and they're not funding them directly. Yeah, they use umbrella corporations. pays B, who pays C. Oh, well, it's totally different if it's indirect. It's not just harmless, kinky sex. It's the mindless hedonism, navel-gazing of the dopamine, serotonin addicted narcissist. So there are basically two paths. The right-hand path is family, tribe, nation. One people bound together, the people all one tribe. Maybe they're going to ascend to the stars and put colonies on the moons of Jupiter, whatever. But it is this concept of ascending to something, this pyramid peak, moving out of savagery into civilization and then moving out into the stars and whatever. But it's increasing knowledge, increasing something, moving towards a greater understanding. But the course starts on raising your kids and passing on the teachings to create the next great, philosopher or scientist. The path away from this is the left-hand path. Mindless sex or drugs, the need to be internet famous, to spend every moment of free time on Twitter, or really to be on Twitter at all. A program that hooks you with constant little dopamine hits for every click. People will mindlessly click for hours a day. Any path away from the straight and narrow path of strong family, strong tribe is the globalist propaganda left-hand path, which is why they push filth and out-group preference in prawn, women's and men's magazines both, and like, no, men's magazines are not innocent. Showing women in lingerie on the covers and all that kind of stuff, that's just as degenerate as women's magazines that are telling women not to have white kids. It's the same string pullers behind the scene who are trying to lower in-group preference and push this mindless hedonism. It's the same filthy parasites. Take my men's course, where I teach you to be a father to your kids, drive a minivan that has multiple airbags and good crumple zones, and turn off the TV and the internet to spend your time reading to your kids and teaching them instead of watching the idiot sports ball by people who hate you, owned by people who hate you. Then when your grandkids come along, you teach them and you honk pill them on the jokers pushing the filth and degeneracy. Everything I would teach would have the ADL calling the FBI to murder me, but they would, swat the wrong house and murder some other innocent person. But eventually they would get to me after firebombing the neighbors. Because strong family, extended family, and in-group preferences is what the globalists have been destroying since the end of World War II. If you look at America in 1955 and look at it now, they want people rootless and mixed up, no past, no future, cattle easily led and controlled, which is why they use this concept of the found family. They've been doing that, kind of 70s and 80s. The found family being, this found group of random associations where it turns out that this plucky band of diverse people is stronger than some nuclear family. Like, no, it's not. That's just globalist propaganda. It's like, we should have called it out 50 years ago, but we're calling it out now. That is why they have slowly subverted the USA from a nation into nothing more than a commercial zone controlled by tech billionaires and bankers who control politicians with Epstein, Maxwell, Mossad, honeypot, blackmail, traps, or simply by bribery. You ever wonder why nobody in office ever seems to be a nationalist? All that sort of ended in the 1990s. The conservatives are just globalists who still have an American flag, and they preach how diversity is great while they live in gated communities safely away from all that diversity. I never thought I would sound like such an old fuddy-duddy, but it really does seem to be two paths. Left hand, global slave to NGOs, or right hand, nationalism, one tribe. You got degeneracy like prawn and map advocates, trans drag kids type of thing, because there's nothing to oppose the forces of degeneracy. To attack something, first destroy its shields from within and without, all the while controlling the narrative by controlling the media and the movement of money to fuel your narrative and use legal warfare against the counter to your narrative. People didn't exactly vote for the filthy, decayed world of 2022. It's more that these puppet masters were able to boil the frog so slowly and keep people so distracted that they were able to create this dystopian world of 2022. Go watch those YouTube videos of the 1940s to 60s of clean, safe American cities. And then in the mid-60s, everything changed. The Bolshevik control of the media, schools, finally bore the fruit of that poison tree. Now go look at the drug-addicted tent cities of America. The liberalism, feminism, socialism, multiculturalism, cultural Marxism of the puppet masters. Oh, you just don't like multiculturalism. Well, where has it worked? It doesn't. It leads to what you see in American cities. It led to this nightmare America of 2020 or 2022. What fights globalist degeneracy? What organizations and structures fight it? None. Over the years, they've all been destroyed by legal lawfare. Most Americans are not on board with Antifa or Black Lives Matter or the burning of cities and statue removals. So why didn't they stop it? Because there's no group or structure in place for them to counter Antifa or BLM. If there was, the FBI would simply try to subvert the group and destroy it, or big tech would dox them and destroy their lives. Which begs the question, like, why isn't the FBI going after BLM and Antifa? Well, who do you think controls most of the federal government and big tech? They slowly worm their way into power over decades, and they just keep seizing control. It's this SJW concept of they see something and they slowly worm their way into it until they subvert it, control it, and destroy it, and then they move on to something else. But in this case, it's an entire country that they firmly have control over, which is why the government seems to be so opposed to what the people are actually doing. Filthy globalists control the FBI, federal government, and big tech. Look at Biden's cabinet. Don't you wonder why our elected officials didn't try to make the First Amendment apply to social media? It's a private corporation. Yeah, I'm willing to say that the free speech, the liberty of the individual, and the open marketplace of ideas, and the new town square, the need for free speech in the new technical town square trumps the right of $1 billion corporation. Yeah, I will vote for that. I will draw the line in the sand. But Congress doesn't seem to care about that. Or even the president got kicked off Twitter. It's fair to say that there's a problem with valuing free speech in America. But Congress does nothing because they don't want free speech. They want controlled speech. The Constitution is a piece of paper meant to loosely run a society. It only works with one people who see themselves as a people. The paper constitution isn't the power. The power is in the tribe with the most in-group preferences, because all things being equal, they will eventually seize power one way or the other, legally, openly, or illegally sub rosa. European Americans are the only ones who don't seem to understand this. Anyway, this might have been too base for YouTube, but like, comment, subscribe, support channel if you can, and I'll see you guys all next episode.